welcome to Ride On Academia. Today we are going to be looking at the quadratic equation. Now, a quadratic equation is an expression of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, right? Where a, b, and c are real numbers. A, b, and c are real numbers, and the highest power of the unknown here is our x, right? The highest power of the unknown is 2. As you can see, the highest power of the unknown is 2, and our unknown, the power of the unknown can neither be a fraction nor negative. Like, it must always be positive, right? And it cannot be a fraction. So the highest power of the unknown we have here is what? Is 2, the highest power. Now, like I said, a, b, and c are real numbers, right? So a is the coefficient of our x squared or y squared, as the case may be. B is the coefficient of our x, and lastly c is our constant. Okay, that's the last number, is our constant. Now I'm going to be giving us an example, but there are literally 4 methods of solving quadratic equation. We have the factorization method, the completing the square method, the general formula method, and the graphical method. Okay, but for the sake of our video, I'm going to be showing us the factorization method, completing the square method, and the general formula method. All right, so in this video we're going to be looking at the first method, which is the factorization. All right, so we're going to be looking at the factorization method of solving quadratic equation. Now, under this method, what we do is, now looking at our form, all right, the form of our expression. This is how it looks like, right? We're looking at the form of our expression. Now, when we want to solve using the factorization method, the first thing we do is that we multiply the coefficient of our x squared, right? The coefficient, which is our a. We multiply the coefficient of our x squared by our constant. We multiply the coefficient of our x squared by our constant, right? So we're going to be multiplying our a, which like I said, they are real numbers, right? Our a and our c, we're multiplying them together to be having ac. So when we have multiplied that, we then consider our middle, the middle term. Okay, that's our second term, the coefficient of our x in this case. We consider the coefficient of our x and the sign. Okay, in fact, one important thing here is that you must carry the sign along. All right, so we consider the coefficient of our x and the sign, which is, in this case, is our plus b, right? Then we consider our plus b. What we do is, when we have multiplied our a and c to get our ac, right, we look for 2 numbers, that's factors of our AC, right? We look for 2 numbers among them, that when we add them, we can get our B. And then when we multiply them, we can get our AC. That's just the idea behind the factorization method. So what we're going to do, we're going to be taking an example to make this work more easier, okay? So we have something like this. We have 3x squared minus 10x plus 7, and we are asked to solve for the possible value of our x. All right, this is using our factorization method. Okay, so I'm going to be using what we just did, the step we just followed. The first thing to do is to consider the coefficient of our x squared and our c. All right, we multiply our 3 times 7, we'll be getting 21. This is what we are going to be getting. We're having 21, all right? Now we then consider the coefficient of our x. In this case, we are having a minus 10, all right? We are having a minus 10. So what we do is we look for 2 numbers that when we multiply them, we must have 21. And then when we add those numbers, we must have minus 10. All right, when we add them, we must have minus 10. When we multiply, we have 21. That's the result when we multiplied, right? So what we do is then we check for the factors of 21. Okay, factors of 21. We have 1 times 21. We have 3 times 7. Those are the 2 factors we have for 21. All right. Now, looking at this, because our middle term is carrying a minus, right? If our middle term is carrying a minus and the result is carrying a plus, it means the 2 numbers were carrying a minus. All right. The 2 numbers was carrying a minus, so we are going to be having 2 numbers with a minus, so that when minus multiplies minus, we then have a plus. All right, so it means the 2 numbers must carry a minus sign. Are we together now? Then now what we do, like I said, we are looking for 2 numbers that when we multiply, we have 21, but when we add them, we must have minus 10. All right, so now looking at this, minus 1 minus 21, what we are having is minus 22. What we need is minus 10, right? So we look at the second factors, all right. Minus 3 then minus 7, what we'll be having is minus 10. That's exactly what we need for our work, all right. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using, since we have gotten what we are looking for, minus 10, right, we're going to be using minus 3 and minus 7. Those are the two numbers that we need, all right. We'll be using minus 3 and minus 7 in place of minus 10. So I'm going to be expanding minus 10, okay. We'll be having minus 3x minus 7x. All right, by using that in place of minus 10, then we have our plus 7, which is our constant. Now when we have done this, the next thing we'll do is that we factor, like the name or the method implies, factorization method, right. So we factor out, we factor 2 by 2, all right. We look at this first 2 and then the next 2. So when we're looking at this first 2, okay, what we have that is common here, we have 3x to be common. So when we bring out our 3x, we have our x, just one x left, right, then minus 1, there's nothing here again, all right. So then we look at these 2, okay. The idea is that we want to have the content in our bracket to be same. So if we have done this work correctly, we can be able to have our content as same, okay. Now if I factor out from this next 2, if I factor out just 7, right, what we'll be having here will be a plus. So what we want to do is that we want our content to be same, okay. So I'm going to be factoring out minus 7. When we factor out minus 7, we are left with x, and then because of the minus sign, here will become a minus 1. Are we together? Now the proof that what we did is correct is that our brackets will be having the same thing, right? If now we're having the same thing in our bracket, we can then pick one. We can pick our 3x from outside and our minus 7 from the next bracket, right? And then multiply by, since they are both the same, we can just pick one, x minus 1. Okay, now our equation is always equal to 0. We always equate it to 0, okay, so we can solve and get the value of our x, right? Now equating this to 0, now we have two brackets. We have two brackets multiplying. Bracket symbolizes multiplication, right? So that means these two brackets are multiplying themselves and the answer is 0. Now remember that for it to be having an answer of 0, it means one of these brackets must be 0, because whatever is multiplied by 0 must be what? 0, alright? So since we don't know which one is 0, we are going to be assuming that either 3x minus 7, which is our first bracket, is equal to 0, or x minus 1, our next bracket, is equal to 0. So we are going to be solving this quickly, okay? If our 3x minus 7 is equal to 0, okay, that will mean to get our x, I'll be moving our constant over the equal to sign, right? We'll be having that our 3x is equal to 7, and that will mean that our x is equal to 7 over 3. That's for the first case. Now for the next case, if our x minus 1 is equal to 0, that will mean that moving the minus, okay, our x will be equal to what? 1. So we are going to be arranging this in ascending order. So our x is equal to 1 or 7 over 3. We have solved for, alright, using our factorization method. Now the next thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be trying another example which will be easier. We have y squared plus 5y, and then we have plus 10, okay, minus 14, okay. This is what we have now. We have 5y squared plus 5y and then minus 14, and we want to solve using the same factorization method. Now looking at this, the coefficient of our y squared, okay, right now is 1, okay. So what we do is, the first thing we do, like we always do, is to multiply the coefficient by our constant. So when we multiply 1 times minus 14, what we are having is minus 14, right? Now our multiplication is carrying a minus sign, so it means one of our factors will be having a minus. So that minus times plus will give us what? Minus, alright? Now considering our second term, which is our plus 5, right? So we are considering our plus 5. So we look for the factors of 14, so that when we multiply them we have minus 14, and then when we add them we are having plus 5. So factors of 14, we have 1 times 14, we have 2 times 7. Like I said, since our 14 is carrying a minus, that is just one factor is having the minus, okay? Just one factor will be having the minus. So in the case where our 1 is having the minus, we'll be trying the minus on both cases, okay? If our 1 is having the minus, 14 minus 1 will be having 13, alright? And if our 14 is having the minus, 1 minus 14, we're having minus 13. That's not what we are looking for, alright? So let's move to the next one. If our 2 is having the minus, 7 minus 2, we have 5, right? And then if our 7 is having the minus, 2 minus 7, we have minus 5. Now what we are looking for is 5, right? That means our 2 will be having the minus. Are we there now? So we are going to be expressing our 5, our plus 5, using these two factors, alright? So we'll be having y squared minus 2y plus 7y minus 14. Like I said, we always equate our expression to 0, alright? Now we factor out 2 by 2. What we have that is common here is y. So when we factor out y, we are left with y minus 2. And then for the next we have plus 7, okay? We are left with y minus 2. Now, like I said, when what we have done is correct, we can be able to have the same content in our brackets, alright? So we are going to be grouping. I'm picking the y outside and I'm picking the plus 7 outside, alright? Multiplied by y minus 2 to give us 0. Now, like I always say, for our answer to be 0, that means either y plus 7, our first bracket, is equal to 0, or y minus 2 is equal to 0. That's our next bracket. So where y plus 7 is equal to 0, that means our y will be equal to this over the equal to become minus. Our y will be minus 7, or our y over the equal to be having plus 2. Arranging in ascending order, our y is equal to minus 7 or plus 2, alright? And that's it. So with this, we have come to the end of solving quadratic equation using our factorization method. Don't forget to like our videos, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and share our video with as many as possible. We'll see you in our next class. Thank you.